Hey everyone. Earlier today, I announced that we're opening up Presence platform to all developers. So now anyone can start building mixed reality experiences for Quest 2 and eventually for our new higher end headset called Cambria that we're going to be shipping later this year. And I thought it would be fun to sit down and talk with one of our developers who's already building awesome experiences for Quest and experimenting with mixed reality. So today, I'm very excited to talk to Jesse Schell, founder and CEO of Schell Games. Jesse and Schell Games have built some of the most popular VR game franchises already, including I Expect You to Die and Until You Fall. And he and his team are working on bringing Among Us to VR, which I know the whole community is going to be pretty excited about. I am, for sure. And Schell Games is also bringing three more titles to MetaQuest over the next 2 years. So, Jesse, you've got a lot going on. So thank you for joining me. And I've been looking forward to talking to you about this. So, thank you.
Yeah, no, really glad we can chat today.
All right. So, I figured maybe it would be helpful to start off just by talking about your extensive history building for VR. You've really been around since the early days of VR, and I'm curious to get your impressions from when you started to kind of where we are today, and how you think that transition has gone. And is this where you thought that we were going to be today?
Sure. No, it's really exciting. For me, I've been doing VR for about 30 years. I got started in the early 90s and then started working at the Disney Virtual Reality Studio, where I was the creative director working on things like Disney Quest, where we were taking VR experiences and kind of putting them at the Disney parks way back in the day. After that, I went to Carnegie Mellon and started teaching classes in virtual reality, and I've been doing that for about 20 years. And so when VR started to come into the marketplace, like I was really excited, back in the early days of the Oculus. It was very exciting, and I wanted to get our studio involved in that. And so has it unfolded like the way that we thought? I mean, I always knew that one day VR was going to be coming back. And then when it started coming back about 7 years ago, then it was trying to figure out like, all right, what's going to happen? And I'd say in some ways it's been, it rolled out a little more slowly than I thought, because man, VR is so exciting. I thought maybe it's going to take off like a rocket, but then kind of seeing like, okay, no, it's been a little bit of a slower rollout. I think it's for the same reason that DVR was a slower rollout, because you got to try it in order to get it. But then the part that's been faster than I expected is the pace at which we moved to a wireless all-in-one headset like we have now with the Quest. That's happened way sooner than I would have expected, and I think I feel like that's the main engine driving VR today.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I agree with that. All right, so you've got Among Us for VR slated to launch this holiday. Maybe could you talk a little bit about what it's been like building a game like that for VR?
Yeah, I mean, we're really big into trying to move into multiplayer games, because that's how it is with any kind of gaming technology. It starts out single player, and then when you get to a certain level of saturation, we always say the number is 10 million. When you've got less than 10 million of something, probably none of your friends have it. When there's more than 10 million of something, probably at least one of your friends has it. And VR is crossing that threshold, which means it's moving into the social space. And so the big thing with Among Us VR is getting all those kind of social aspects right, because that sense of like physical presence of being there with your friends, being there with other people in this kind of crazy party atmosphere, you really want to get that feeling strong and right. And that's where a lot of our attention is going, because Among Us is such a well-loved game, but it's a simple 2D kind of game, trying to make it 3D immersive so that you can interact and actually talk to so much of the game is about a discussion about who did it. To be able to actually have that as a voice conversation with body language is really exciting.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. All right, so you're working on what I think is a really neat demo that you've called Home Sweet Home, that uses Presence platform, specifically the pass-through scenes, spatial anchors, What's been the experience so far with Presence Platform, and what what have you felt like that's enabled you to do that that you couldn't do in VR previously? And
Yeah.
and I just want to say, I think this is a pretty neat experience that you put together. I mean, it's one level or so of maybe a kind of hypothetical follow up to "I expect you to die," but the whole experience of basically, it's like you start off in this box and you need to, and as you kind of start getting out, you can see through it, you can see the room around you, the physical room around you. And then it just kind of unfolds into all these other experiences where, you're using this kind of X-ray gun to help identify, if any of your walls have been bugged, and then, so you point it at a wall and it scans the wall, and then it kind of pops out, some more enemies. So it's a very interesting experience, but I'm curious what the experience of building this was.
Yeah, the home sweet home experience, which is this kind of mixed reality, I expect you to die, the level that we built. The inspiration was, we were joking around about what does it mean for a secret agent to have to work from home. And we thought that was kind of a funny idea. And that ended up being the inspiration of you're the secret agent, but you can't go on adventures. You got to stay at home, and we're gonna mail you all of the stuff that you need in order to do your job. So all the death traps and things are showing up in your house. And we thought that would be kind of a fun way to kind of include your home in it. And the thing that I love about the Presence Platform is this ability to kind of move back and forth between VR and AR experiences. Some of the early augmented reality platforms that have come out, they involve this little postage stamp of you can look at. But when you take the VR and AR and you bring them together, now you have the ability to kind of just start with a VR experience that is solid, and then be able to bring in reality to it, and to be able to choose when to do that, when not to do that, is great, because it lets you kind of get the best of both, because you don't run into artificial edges where the objects just disappear. You're just anybody who's comfortable interacting in VR, now you can be comfortable interacting with virtual objects, but in your real room and in your real space. So the combination of being able to use the pass-through and the scene understanding, and the spatial anchors, all of that stuff, it really helps make for an engaging experience, because that's what you want to be able to do, is connect the virtual experience with the physical space around you, with the walls, with the surfaces around you, to really make it connect. And it's just a new way to make things really fun.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that the field of view has been a pretty big constraint for some of the early AR glasses type products. So the fact that you can do mixed reality, in a VR headset, but with the full field of view, does unlock a lot of interesting things. And I'm curious, in addition to the games and experiences that you work on, what else, you think are going to benefit from that type of technology, or is there anything else that you're particularly excited to go build?
Oh, I mean, there are just so many possibilities in the game space right now, and I know one of the things that I'm looking forward to, because I think this is going to be such part of what's great about the Presence Platform, is there are already so many VR developers. To be able to now take this and use the pass-through and have the whole world start to experiment with what are the best ways to start to use this technology, I can't wait to see everything that people are going to start building with that. One of the things in particular, I think, is going to be the business of augmenting people who are with you in your space. The ability not only to bring in virtual people and have them in the same room with you in order to create social experiences at a distance, but then more than that, we already have these great technologies of kind of using filters on people's faces that we do in videos and that we do on distant calls, to be able to do that with people in the room with you. There's just this opportunity for kind of fun, interesting interaction that I think is really powerful.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how people experiment with that. I mean, it's I think in some ways mixed reality is going to be an early development environment for some of the augmented reality glasses that are going to be coming a few years down the line. But I think your point about the field of view being bigger and richer, and I think is going to also enable some new things to work. So that's it's going to be really exciting to see once the new headset especially comes out later this year. And so talking about that, Project Cambria, I mean, we've talked a bit about how we're working on this, and it's going to include a bunch of new sensors, right? Including, high resolution, color, outward facing cameras that can enable color pass through. So today on Quest 2, you put it on when you go outside of the Guardian, you get this kind of very rough black and white view of the scene around you, and people have loved that. It's been, we've gotten a ton of positive feedback on that, but we didn't really intend it to be anything more than a safety feature, right? But people have been building experiences on top of that. So now, but that was based on sensors that were not designed to build, give you anything more than just a very rough outline of what was going on around you. So with Cambria, you have the high resolution color sensors to basically make it so that you can have a color pass through experience that's just designed to be built on top of, as well as things like depth sensors, which right now in Quest 2 we kind of just we hack it a little bit just by looking at the cameras and trying to intuit what the depth is based off of that. But with Cambria you'll actually have that. So I'm curious, what's your impression of the color pass through from what you've seen so far? I know you've seen a bunch of the demos and things like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really excited about the color pass through, because the black and white pass through is like, okay, cool, this is working, and it gives you a sense of where you're going. But when you have things actually in color, it really is much more exciting. It seems much more real, particularly when objects are blending. And part of the key is when you get the lighting right on the virtual objects, so that they match up with the ones that are in your scene, you have these, I always love these magic moments where you're like, wait a minute, and you're not sure what's real and what's not. And you've got to kind of take the headset off to check for a second about what is there and what isn't there. And so that's part of, I think, what the color opportunity brings. Just so many more ways to interact seamlessly.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty wild to see. I mean, just given how many folks have tried to develop on top of the kind of basic black and white pass through, which just wasn't even designed for that, for Quest 2, to now have a headset that, it's the first version of pushing in this direction that's kind of designed with mixed reality as one of the key use cases for it. I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I'm curious, what are the challenges that you've had and areas that you think would just benefit from a lot more development here?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Presence platform is a really great beginning, and such an important part of it is the whole business of scene understanding, so that I know where the walls are, I know where the ceiling is. That lets you kind of do really interesting things with the space around you. And one of the ways I'm hoping that the scene understanding APIs are going to move is towards more human elements in the space. The ability to detect, oh, that's a person in the room, and to be able to augment that person. And then things that involve people. So furniture it would be the shorthand for that. To be able to detect that's a chair, that's a couch, this is a table. Yeah. This is now going to let me bring objects in. The phrase we use a lot is augmented reality is best when it augments reality, right? Because if you're just floating objects there, that's one thing, but to meaningfully connect things with spatial anchors into a place, that's when things start to seem real. And part of it, particularly for the social experiences, the idea that I can be sitting on my couch and then I've got a friend 3,000 miles away who's kind of sitting on their couch, but now we can create the illusion that we're both sitting in the room with each other on each other's furniture. Like it really starts to make the illusion just really so believable, because everything fits. And so that's, we're some great steps on scene understanding, but to the human elements, the furniture, et cetera, I think will go a long way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's definitely an area of technology that we're working on. Basically the computer vision to be able to understand everything that's going on around you in a scene. Even on Quest 2 today, we have some basic versions of this. I mean, we're just rolling out this beta version of if something comes into your Guardian area, whether it's a pet or a child, like we'll kind of give you a heads up so that way you don't accidentally run into them.
Yeah.
But just on a kind of more ongoing basis, understanding the furniture, understanding the layout of the room and stuff like that, I think is going to be really important. So I definitely agree with that. One of the things that we've talked about that I think is sort of interesting is a lot of people have this idea that I think that some people look at VR today and they're like, okay, it's this sort of big headset. The experience is cool, but or it sounds like it could be cool, but I'm going to wait until there's AR glasses. We have this whole Project Nazare that's focused on building kind of the ideal augmented reality glasses, and that's still several years down the line. But you've had some interesting insight into why mixed reality on these headsets is going to be a pretty big step up in terms of the consumer experience, and why a lot of people who might be more interested in augmented reality will be interested in buying this kind of a device. So I'm curious to talk about that for a few minutes too.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's something really important because, I talk to people about this all the time. There's some people just really excited about virtual reality, and there's other people who are like, oh, I don't know if that's for me. They seem a little overwhelmed by it. But then they say, oh, but augmented reality, that's really interesting. That's something that I would really want to do, and I'd really want to try. And I didn't understand this for a while, but the more I spent time talking to people, it was realizing that augmented reality says, no, we're going to bring virtual objects into the room and the space with you, which for a lot of people is a much more comfortable experience because they're still connected to the space and the people around them, even though they might be interacting with virtual objects. It's all, sometimes we talk about it's the difference between here and there. Like VR takes you there to a distant place, which is great for gaming, but for a lot of things, no, I just want to be here. Bring the digital world to me, like here, where I am. And the ability to slide back and forth between those, I think is really powerful because there are a lot of great games. Like, I don't know, like look at Beat Saber. That doesn't need to be in a completely virtual world. You could play that in
totally
augmented reality, mixed reality world and still be in touch with your surroundings. So there are a lot of experiences like that. And opening this door to mix the realities is, I think, is going to open the door for a lot more people.
Yeah. So, I mean, I probably should have explained this to people who were viewing earlier, but I mean, what pass-through technology is basically, if you think about augmented reality, you kind of have normal looking glasses, you can see the world and maybe you project holograms onto the world. But what pass-through technology is you basically have a headset that looks like a VR headset, although, Cambria will have a better, somewhat, tighter form factor than what we've had with Quest 2, but it'll feel like a headset. But you can see the physical world around you because it has these sensors on the outside of the headset that are pointing out that are in color. So it can capture the world around you in color and then put that as kind of the default view in what you're seeing in your headset. And then you can draw digital objects on top of that. So, for example, you could be in your living room and you can kind of see your living room and the people are there, but then you can also just kind of snap your fingers and have a ping pong table there and be playing ping pong in your living room. So it's and so that's the kind of basic experience that we're talking about here. And I agree with you. I think that this framework of here versus there and being able to kind of bring stuff into where you are and go to other places. They're two sides of the same coin, right? Because let's say, you're sitting and you're playing ping pong in your living room with a friend, if they're virtually, right? So maybe you're in your living room, but there's the use case where you're there physically, but you just don't have a ping pong table. And now you can snap your fingers and bring up the ping pong table. And that's awesome because they'll have access to all the stuff that you didn't have before. But there's the other case where your friend is, somewhere else in your city or halfway across the world. It doesn't really matter. And and you're in your living room and you bring the ping pong table into your living room, and then maybe your friend also appears there as an avatar or a hologram or whatever. So you're here, right? You're where you are physically, but your friend is teleporting in. So these things will kind of all, I think, flow together. And that's I think part of why this whole mixed reality experience and getting the experience on that to get better and better is going to be one of the big next steps that we take with Cambria.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense, because the one thing we always think about when designing virtual reality is the difference between designing flat experiences and designing for VR is, how does it involve my body? Because if it doesn't involve your body at all, why would you put it in VR? Because that's the difference. It brings your body in, so you get all the spatial interaction that you have when you interact with other people, when you interact in kind of sports activities, any kind of manipulation. Like, it's just it opens up this interesting new world of connectivity, and to be able to blend the physical and the virtual, both local and at a distance, it's going to be a really exciting next few decades.
Yeah, totally. All right, so I think we covered a fair amount of ground here, including some of the experiences you've worked on, and a bunch of the basics around the headset. Is there anything else that you wanted to make sure that we covered here?
I guess I'd be curious. Like, I'm really focused on the game space a lot. I'd be curious if you have thoughts about, like, where do you think some of this technology is going that's kind of outside the game space?
Well, one of the big focuses for Cambria is going to be on work. We sit at a workstation all day long, whether it's a laptop or a computer with a big desktop monitor. And a lot of people just work for many hours a day. And from my perspective, you're going to be able to have a better workstation in VR. And you'll be able to bring it anywhere you want. Just basically be able to snap your fingers, have your perfect work set up where you have as many monitors as you want, without actually having to physically have them. So it should be better for productivity, for coding, for modeling and creating things. If you want to work on something with someone, they should just be able to show up as an avatar or a hologram next to you. This should be a lot better for meetings, right? I don't know about you. I do a lot of Zoom meetings. Have a grid of faces. It's great for where we are today, but it's clearly not, I think, the end of the line in terms of what that technology can deliver. I'd be kind of surprised if by the end of this decade, if more people aren't using a VR device as their primary work device for more of the day. And it's like what you're saying. It's not necessarily that you're going to be in VR with everything else blacked out. You'll be in an office and there will be people around you, but you'll also just be able to bring up, whatever screens you want, or people you want to collaborate. And I think that that's going to be pretty awesome. So that's one use case that I'm pretty focused on.
It makes sense. Just the ability to have a shared whiteboard,
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely one of the things I miss when it comes to remote work is we can both, like, point and draw on a thing, and you can do that so easily in these mixed reality experiences.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, one thought experiment that I like doing is just thinking about how many of the physical things that we have don't actually need to be physical. So, like, basically how many of the screens that we have, they don't actually need to exist, right? It's like whether you have mixed reality or augmented reality in the future, like, all those screens can just be holograms or digital objects that are placed there. They don't actually need to be there. Whiteboards are the same thing. I mean, it looks like you have a whiteboard behind you, but
yeah.
you could, like, basically have the ability to bring that with you anywhere you want. Snap your fingers, capture what's on it, collapse it. Go to another room or another office, blow it up again, be able to edit it there. Basically any Word doc or spreadsheet or 3D model for anything you're designing or code, just being able to kind of bring that and collaborate with people on that anywhere you go and kind of feel like you're there with them, with someone sitting right next to you. It's I think that's going to be very powerful for work.
Yeah.
I tend to think about a lot of the stuff. I mean, moving on from work, I think just the sense of presence and being with people is really why Meta's in this, right? I mean, we're the, of all the technology companies that are out there, there are a lot of companies that design technology to kind of help people interact with technology better, but we are really focused on designing technology to help people interact with other people better. So, the ability to kind of bring people into your physical space, even if it's just digitally as a hologram, I think is going to be a very big deal. This feeling of presence, like you're really there with another person, That's like the kind of highest order of social interaction. All that stuff is really important. So I think mixed reality is going to be important for that, like you said. We're also seeing a lot of interesting use cases around fitness, which has been kind of interesting. Yeah. I kind of thought that might happen longer term, but it's kind of happened a bit sooner than I would have thought. So we're seeing things like Supernatural or FitXR, where it's sort of like Peloton, but instead of paying and buying the bike or the treadmill, you just that your VR device is the hardware, and then you're buying a subscription to take boxing classes or dance classes or cardio. And I think a lot of that will work really well in mixed reality too, because now instead of, like you said, I mean, there's one cool thing about virtual reality is, Supernatural's designed this experience where you're in these awesome places like the pyramids or on the surface of Mars. And that's cool about virtual reality. But like you said, I think a lot of people would rather kind of feel like they're present in their, wherever it is, their living room or their home gym, but you have your boxing instructor there as a hologram. I think that would be pretty awesome too. So all these things I think are going to get a lot better.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, the exercise games is fascinating. We created a sword fighting game, Until You Fall, which of course is very active, and we were surprised when a lot of people really started using it as an exercise game.
Yeah,
and I really do think that's that area of, like you say, mixed reality exercise that's going to be a growing market without a doubt.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we touch on before we wrap?
Unless you're ready to give a whole bunch of secrets about everything you guys are going to be developing next. But other than that, I think I'm good.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Jesse, thanks for joining, and thanks for everything you do. It's you're building awesome experiences. It's been fun to collaborate on a bunch of this, and I'm excited to see what you build going forward. So thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Mark.
Awesome. See ya.